Hey babes, this is Tandem Orgasms, your go-to podcast on life coaching, owning your divine feminine power, and the far-out new age world of spirituality with your hosts, Caitlin Englert and Jen Morgan. Ladies, it's time to step into a new kind of confidence, one where you stop searching for and instead claim the balance you crave. Each week, we will bring you wisdom, personal experiences, and ridiculous banter that will have you laughing while also providing you with useful tools to transform your life from blah to turned on to your climactic inner diva.
So it is about how I go to
All
sleep
right,
moms.
How many of you watch Mickey Mouse Clubhouse? Hey.
and you go to sleep and all you hear in your head is, it's the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. Come inside, it's fun inside. And you're just like, great, I'm not going to bed tonight. Thanks,
Yeah.
Mickey Mouse Clubhouse.
Or when you turn the guide on at night, you're like, no kids TV. And you automatically flip on Mickey Mouse Clubhouse.
Or how when you're in the middle of like a conversation with an adult and in your head pops, oh, toodles. And you're like,
I need tools
no.
to fix this situation.
Yeah. You're like, oh no. Kids, say it with me.
Wait, didn't you say you saw a meme the other day about Mickey Mouse Clubhouse?
Yeah, my friend
An
sent
adult
it to
meme?
me. It's pretty bad.
But it goes right along with our podcast.
You know how the line is, come inside, it's fun inside? Well,
Yeah.
they changed the spelling of the word come. So, and I thought that was great.
It
Is fun inside.
Yeah, now you will think of that every time you're watching Mickey Mouse Clubhouse.
Should we always rant
I mean,
on-
Disney turns things dirty all the time.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised by this.
Either that or just like, it's kind of like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. Like you realize, like when you watch the Disney movies, you're like, oh my gosh, the plot of this is actually awful.
Yeah, but you don't think of those things as a child, and I don't feel like it affected my
why
childhood in any way.
Why is everyone's parents always dying?
I know,
They
it's so
always
sad.
die.
Or
Always.
one or the other.
Yeah.
Moana is the only one with both parents. But her grandma dies.
But death.
Death and
What
destruction.
are they trying to prepare our kids for? Death.
It
Us
didn't
dying.
prepare me for death.
It didn't prepare me for death either. In fact, what's weirder is that you watch those movies as a kid and it doesn't register to you. Oh, the parents died. I don't remember ever noticing that until I was an adult, and I'm like, this is kind of fucked up.
Except Lion King. Why can't I talk? This has been an issue lately. Wait, this is an issue all the time. Lion King. I definitely cried every time I watched that.
I didn't as a kid?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't.
Like, it hurts my heart.
I think I was more wrapped up in the whole like Pumbaa and Timon situation, and I just thought they were great. I don't remember
It's just a
anything else
sad
about the movie
Simba.
other than the dad dies.
You know that movie took like 5 years to make? They had to draw each one of those water buffaloes.
That's nuts.
Yeah, and like, every single movement that it made all the way down the hill into that valley.
And you know this because you go to Disney every year.
And my sister has lots of fun facts, and she knows random things
About Disney.
and then passes it on to me.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
thank you. I now that I know about the water buffalo.
There you go, guys.
Mhm.
Fun fact for the day.
Yeah. So let's talk about what we're actually here to talk about, I suppose. Not water buffalo.
Or
Today's
death.
episode is not on water buffalo, but on the off chance that you need to know about water buffalo, there's your fun fact. But also, did you know water buffalo?
No, it wasn't about water buffalo. It was about the illustrations and how long they took
I was trying
to draw.
I was trying to think of a fun fact about water buffalo, and then I realized I didn't know any. But I do know something about elephants. They get this thing called Blackfoot, and then they basically die. So look it
sad.
up. Yeah, it's really upsetting. It's something about water. I think it's like some sort of because I can't remember.
Elephants are really magical animals.
They are. They
They have a way of building connection.
Oh, there's the segue. We found
There's our
it.
segue. Good job, Kate.
They do build connection. That is true.
I just poked myself in the eye. I
This is-
can't talk, and I'm poking myself in the eye. I
The
don't know.
5-minute intro to this is real. That's a gem. It's a real gem. Okay, guys. So today we're going to talk about connection, building connection. And so we want to start with a quote, which Kate is going to try to read, but probably is going to butcher
Because I can't
because
talk.
she can't talk. Like,
So-
when you say that with like no emotion, like she's gonna butcher this, and then that's all.
That's it. That's how it goes. That's how the cookie crumbles. So we decided to pull up a quote by Brene Brown because
Kate's obsessed with her. That's why.
Yeah, and who can say it better? I feel like we would not be able to define it better. We'd be sitting here for a long time trying to define it.
And we're trying to cut down on time because
So boom.
Yeah.
Just pull up a quote on Google.
Yeah.
All right, so Brene Brown, she describes connection as the energy that exists between people when they feel seen, heard, and valued, when they can give and receive without judgment, and when they derive sustenance and strength from the relationship.
Yes.
Boom.
And that like really does summarize. And I want to add to this that I also believe that this connection can be made within environments, not necessarily connection to other people, but when you are in an environment, even if you are by yourself, where you can feel seen, heard, and valued, right? So you can find places that make you feel aligned to feel these things.
Yeah, I kind of think of connection as this thing that has branches. So I don't know if a tree with branches.
With the trees.
A tree with branches. So you have different pathways of which you connect to the world around you. You have your environments, you have people that you connect with, you have the things that you enjoy doing, hobbies or sports or whatever your thing is.
And these are all branches on a tree.
These are all branches on a tree. Yeah. And then you have the things that really just help you feel connected to yourself. For example, I really enjoy just being out in nature, and sometimes certain smells or certain things I hear really just bring me this sense of peace, like this inner connection and peace that allows me to feel whole and joyful and connected to my inner self.
Yeah. And I call that the higher self. I call it inner self, higher self, your higher version of yourself. And that could be like roots. That's like your roots, right? So like your roots are the thing that bring you to the trunk, and the trunk is like when you're centered, when you're in this place.
So are we reframing this analogy?
Yeah, I'm taking your tree and I'm going to like frame it into this.
Okay, so what are the roots?
So the roots are all the things that make you feel connected to your center, right? Or your higher self or your true self or your inner self, whatever you want to call that. And then you have all your branches, right? Which are all the things that can come off of that, like environments that make you feel accepted, seen, valued, people, communities, and so on, right? And hobbies, like you said,
make you feel full.
But can it go both ways? Can it be top down or bottom up? Right? Could be both. And in the middle is like your trunk. That's your center. That's your core.
Yeah.
So when you have these things in place, you feel like the best version of yourself, right? No, there's a lot of us out there that might actually probably consider ourselves introverts, but as a that just the sheer fact that we are in a collective, I think that human connection and having a community, we're pack animals essentially, right? So even some of you guys might be like, well, my tree's a little bit more heavy on the environment and a little less on the, interaction with people. Even that's fine, but that is still an important thing to help somebody feel centered, because when you're not feeling supported or you feel like you have nowhere to go, that you're not going to be in that place where you feel like your higher self is very active in your life, right? It's like you want that centered, balanced point within yourself as much as possible, right? Being who you truly are and representing that on the surface, like that's kind of the goal. And so if you feel unsupported in what you're experiencing and you feel like you have nowhere to go, how much of that can you be in the forefront?
Yeah, if you don't have that connection, especially when you're going through a really difficult time, it will feel impossible to even navigate that change.
Yeah.
And so, going back to my early roots of when I started getting sober and clean, I needed that community. I needed that connection to other like-minded people.
That were going through the same experience.
Yeah. I needed the structure and accountability of showing up somewhere every day. And that helped me feel connected, not just to the people there, but the program itself and what that was saying. And, as I continue, I can see how that has happened at multiple points throughout my journey. So, even when I was in school, like I needed that connection so I didn't fully burn out.
Mm-hmm.
I needed that connection to give me the motivation to continue moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
And it just, it keeps unfolding at different stages of our lives.
Well, you mentioned before, like you had that gym community too.
Yeah.
Where that it served a purpose at that time. And so, sometimes we might outgrow certain groups or certain communities, just depending, but having those support systems of people that can really hold space for you, right? Sometimes it can go into an unhealthy category, and then you decide, okay, this is not allowing me to be my higher self and be within alignment. But, when you have people that can hold space, truly hold space for your experience and, what you're going through to make you feel seen and heard, I think that's a massively powerful thing. So, just the other day, I had an online class for empaths. And so the best part of that experience for me, I shared my personal experience of my struggles with being a sensitive person and the ways in which that acted out in my life. It took me a long time to figure out that that's what was going on with me, and the reason why that was. And it was amazing to voice things that I've never really put out there necessarily, but like, hey, this is my experience and this might be what this looks like for you. And the feeling of, for me, I'll actually share a little bit just so you can have the context of what I'm talking about. But, most of my life would kind of be spent, being introverted, but taking on other people's emotions. And then what would happen is I would get to this point where I would just completely explode and have an emotional meltdown. And it would last, like, maybe it would be a day, and it was me trying to release and like purge out like what I was experiencing, because I couldn't really handle it and I didn't know what to do. And then it was always received very poorly. So anybody around me would not know what to do with me. They would be like, oh my God, right? And they didn't know how to hold space for it, because they didn't actually know, and I couldn't even verbalize why all of it was coming up and out. Like I couldn't tell you all the things that it was, because I had gone on feeling and disconnected from my feeling and numbing out for so long that when it came out and exploded, I couldn't even verbalize it. So nobody knew. Like I could only give you bits and pieces and what I could, kind of inch out of my mouth as I'm like, hysterically crying. Right. And so this was an experience that I have been living out for many, many years, since basically teenage years. And so I shared this experience of how I learned this was an empath quality that I didn't realize this is what was going on. I was taking on everyone else's stuff, and I would get to the point where I would reach my max and I would have to empty out, or I couldn't go on. Right. And so that feeling of that experience I shared, and it was amazing to watch as I shared that, everyone commenting saying, oh my God, that's what I experienced. Oh my God, that nobody's ever said that to me. Nobody's ever given me permission to feel that way, or said, hey, I feel that too, or I'm experiencing this too.
Because you allowed them to feel seen and heard. And
exactly.
So many of us feel alone, especially when we're going through something or we're having really intense emotions.
I felt something was wrong with me my whole entire life until I put pieces together and figured out why it was happening. And even then, giving myself permission to experience that when it is still hard, because I'm learning, I know the skills to manage it now, but I didn't then, right? So I always felt like I'm alone. No one gets me. I'm broken. Something's wrong with me. And I said those things. And then you give people permission to admit that that's how they feel too. And then you have community and connection. And now you're not alone.
I felt that way being a mom and then transitioning. I had to stay at home with the kids for a few years. So making that transition from working mom to stay at home mom. And then I was transitioning back into working mom.
Yeah.
But it wasn't looking the way I thought it should look. So I was having a hard time with, well, I want to be this stay at home mom, but it's not meeting my needs. It's not helping me to connect to myself or the world around me. And through talking to other moms that were the same way, they gave me permission to feel that that's okay. That I am not, it doesn't mean I love my kids less.
And
or it doesn't mean that I love my kids less. It doesn't mean that I'm a bad mom. It doesn't mean all these things I thought it meant.
Yeah.
And I had all this guilt because people say, oh, your kids are only little for so long. Enjoy them. So I had this internal battle.
That's a lot of pressure.
Yeah. Of like, do I stay home? Do I go back to work? Do I wait? Do I suck it up and just stay home with them? But in the meantime, I was so unhappy.
That's like a lot of inner turmoil. So you're trying to navigate this.
So I had other moms say, you know what? It wasn't for me either.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm a stay-at-home mom and I feel the same way.
Yeah.
And, they helped me navigate that and helped me to feel seen and heard, and that I'm not the only mom out there like that, and that there's different types of moms, and no matter what kind of mom you are, that's okay.
Yeah. So it's really, so I'm listening to this and I'm saying, okay, like, what is it that other people did for you, right? They provided you two things. This is a quotable. I'm about to do it.
Quotable.
Boom. Permission and perspective.
Mm-hmm.
That is what you got out of talking to other moms. They gave you permission. It's okay to feel how you feel. Mm-hmm. Now you're seen and understood, right? And then you have a shift in perspective. So you're like, now that I feel seen and I feel heard, I'm able to explore new possibilities for what things can look like.
Mm-hmm.
That is like the magic, right? Like that's the magic that connection with other people bring us. Like me saying, hey, this is my experience. This is what it was, speaking my truth, allowed me to hold space for other people who have experienced the same thing and saying, hey, you know what? I've experienced the same thing. You have permission to feel how you feel. And they're like, oh my God, nobody's ever said that to me. I thought my whole life there's something wrong with me, right? And then I'm saying, hey, I've been through what you're going through, and I can actually teach you, right, how to manage this and make it. Here's the cool thing, a gift, right? That's the shift in perspective. You can actually use this to navigate your life with more alignment.
And the thing is, if you're trying to force yourself to do something that doesn't align with who you are, it'll cause you to disconnect from yourself. Mm-hmm. And I think both of us can relate to that. Like putting
it's ourselves, like the whole trunk's missing. Boom, cut out.
Right. Yeah. Like you got the tree top and the roots, but you got the middle.
You got no trunk.
Nothing's supporting you. So like my work is what gives me my connection to the rest of the world. And I don't need it, but it is definitely a big root in my tree, and it gives me perspective. It allows me to feel seen and heard and help others feel seen and heard.
Yeah.
And so I definitely feel like I've been in situations over the years where I just wasn't happy, and it allowed me to disconnect from myself because I wasn't able to be who I truly was in those environments, or I was being told to not be that way, or you can't be this way.
So sometimes there are situations
or I felt I had to like camouflage myself because my need to fit in. I camouflaged myself to those environments, which totally disconnected me from my higher self, my true self.
Yeah. So like you're saying, conversely, what can happen is you being a part of communities or environments or situations where you cannot be who you are. Right. Mm-hmm. And so that is like basically operating. You got some stuff up top. You're doing some hobbies. You're doing some things you like. And you got some things down bottom. Okay. Like here are my roots, but the whole trunk's really missing because you can't be yourself. You can't present the truth in that place. And so that's a good way to take a survey of your world and say, okay, what environments, what relationships, what groups am I a part of in which I can't be who I truly am? Because most of us do know, our souls know who we truly are. We can hide it from ourselves for so long, and some of us are really skilled at that. I've done that at different stages of my life. I think you can say you've done it too. But the thing is that the truth always of the situation and who you are always shines through. Your soul knows. It has an uncanny ability to know who you actually are. So if you ask yourself, here are the relationships I'm in, here are the environments I spend time in, here are the, groups that I spend time with, okay? Maybe individual relationships is me and you, friends, okay? Environments, here's places that I show up at. These are places that I go, that I surround myself with different things and different people. And then here's the groups that I'm friends with, or groups that I attend. where am I being my true self, higher self, inner self? Where am I able to represent myself in my best version of myself as who I am, or that I can grow into that? These people give me permission to be that.
But I think,
or not.
I think fear and shame
Mhm.
prevent us from getting out of those environments or those relationships. So if you're working a job that you're just not happy with, or you're in a relationship that you're not happy with, or you don't have the friendships that you want to have, a lot of that is because, or we continue to try to blend in with our environments. That's because we feel ashamed of who we are, or we have this fear of making a change. Okay,
or,
if I
or
leave my
risk putting other people's things above your own, right?
Mhm.
So it can be some of that too. It's like, well, I don't want to make a change because I'm responsible for this person. The other thing is that when you're, maybe it's not necessarily shame, or it could be obligation. Like, you're not making a change because, yes, maybe there's fear and there's shame, but there's also not making choices to leave those environments, those groups, those relationships because of an obligation. And one of the things that I've kind of been chewing on this word for a little bit is like being in servitude, right? So it's like not feeling like you're able to let something go because you're in servitude, or
Did you make that up?
No, I was thinking of like, sometimes certain relationships, like it's like you feel like you're locked in, or you feel like, oh, well, I've made this commitment and I must see it to fruition. Like, I felt like that a few times, like within just like my business, and saying, oh, but I like, different aspects or different things. Like, I would create something and I'd be like, but I have to let this, I have to make sure that this works because I created it. Instead of just saying, it's not making me feel joy and it doesn't seem to spark anything with me, can I let this one course or something I created go? Because right now I'm acting like I'm in servitude to the thing that I created. It has power over me. I don't have power over it, right? And so this kind of term, servitude, like being in servitude to something, is saying that has power over me, and I'm letting it have power over me in a sense where it's taking my joy away, and it owns me and I don't own it, right? So it's like, I think sometimes we feel this within, those groups, environments, relationships that we're a part of, is to say, well, that, I should just stay in this because, it's better for this person. And in that case, you're in servitude to that person, right? You're not leaning into something that, is a branch or is a root that's bringing you to a more centered, higher level of yourself. You're staying with something that's keeping you blocked in, keeping you in jail and in slavery to that, right? Not to your commitment to you. I don't know. So sometimes I think it's an obligation is another way to say it. Like, I'm obligated to see this out, but it's not from a place of joy. Or I'm obligated to stay, but it's not from a place of joy. So where are you letting other people have power over you and keeping you in servitude? And on paper, they're not. It's you, right? You're not. I'm not in servitude. Like, you're not saying to me, well, Jenn, you must do this. My course didn't say to me, well, Jenn, you must live me out. Like, I must,
Well, that goes back to one of our conversations regarding ego.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is. It's the ego interfering instead of moving into a place of spirituality and alignment. Thank you. Alignment. It's ego saying, like, I started this, I have to see it out, because if I don't, what does that mean?
And also being an attachment to an outcome, because right, that's the same thing. And what's that quote that's like, the root of all pain and struggle is attachment, right? So it's like, where are you being attached?
Yeah, that we cause our own suffering.
Yeah,
it's the Buddhist way.
Yeah. You cause your own suffering through this attachment, and your attachment is to, what does this relationship mean? And what do I owe this person? Right? That's attachment. It might not be attachment for your own benefit, but it's attachment, and all attachment's attachment,
Yeah, that's why I do try to go into conversations with people and just tell myself, I'm not going to have an expectation of their reaction or what the outcome is. I may hope for a desired outcome, But if I have that attachment or expectation of what it's going to look like, and that's not how it plays itself out, I'm going to feel let down, and I'm going to end up having that suffering experience.
And then you're not even present for what could show up that might be amazing. And you're just going to like miss it.
Because you're fixated on your desired outcome, not what outcome could actually be.
Yeah. And so.
Or the connection.
Yeah.
Right? It's not even about the outcome always. It's about that process and being in the moment.
Yeah.
Connecting with that person through that conversation and being able to hear them and be able to voice what you need to voice and be heard.
Yeah. And sometimes like just kind of like going back to, you know, sometimes certain groups, certain connections only last for so long, right? And when you're attached to an outcome, how present and can you be when that needs to evolve, or that needs to morph, or it needs to go away, or whatever it is, right? Like connection that can shift over time.
I think we need to talk about that. Connection's been really challenging in the last year because physically we've been disconnected and told not to go near each other for, you know, safety and health. And so now it's caused a lot of trauma for people. You know, people don't want to go near other people. People don't want to hug or touch each other. And people don't even like, they're not able to smile at each other.
I want to go on a karmic tangent here on this.
Okay.
I have noticed this. So, you know, the work that I do, I read people on a karmic level. And one of the things that I read for is essentially, is there any, I'm trying to not get into the terminology too much to go too far out, but basically, is there something that's blocking someone that is, it's usually triggered when there's a trauma in the lifetime, okay? And then there's this thing that kind of upholds the energetic footprint of that trauma. And unless we clear and do clearing work, these things do not go away. This is actually how people end up being triggered. And because, this situation reminded me of the last situation in which I had the trauma, and you still have this energetic footprint that's being upheld for, let's say you felt self-loathing at one point in your life, okay? So that trauma happened, you felt self-loathing. Next time you get triggered, something feels similar enough, boom, self-loathing comes to the forefront. You're down on yourself, and here we go. Until those things are karmically cleared, when they are upholding, they'll keep being triggered. This is how people end up in these kind of trigger trauma loops, where they'll go one energetic footprint. You can almost watch it. If you get mindful enough in yourself, you can actually watch it. They'll go from one to the next, to the next, to the next. And the more of these they have, the more disruptive it is. Now,
is that what you're saying has happened during the pandemic?
Here's where I'm going to go with it. I've read for many, many people since the pandemic, and everybody seems to have the same two. Which means that as a collective, this is now starting to, and this is more than 10 people I've read for, okay, in the last 2-3 months, okay. So this means, okay, this is now reading as a very prominent trend, if it's not collective level. And these two energetic footprints are isolation and restriction across the board, right? So this pandemic has literally made us believe, one, we are in trauma, and the trauma feels like isolation and restriction, right? So literally what you're saying, where obviously we know we're feeling this, well, you're not only feeling it, it's actually now sitting there karmically too, for most people. That's pretty nuts, right? Across the board.
Yeah.
So we literally have these traumas that we're experiencing, because this is a collective level thing that we're experiencing, that are telling us you're isolated and you're held back.
Well, I think the other thing that's causing us, so there's that, like what you're talking about.
Yeah, I'm just saying what this looks like on a karmic level.
No, definitely. I think that's great. And that like the physical distance has obviously done that. People's values and beliefs are being projected onto other people.
And I'll explain that.
So, if one person has one perspective of mask wearing, for example, and someone else has a different perspective on it, there's judgments that go both ways of what you should or shouldn't be doing because of your own value and belief system. It doesn't align with that. But obviously this comes from the top down, right? The government down.
Yeah.
And then onto an individual micro level. And everyone's perspective of things is very different right now. So if you're not doing what people think you should be doing, vice versa, then people are judging and shaming each other for that, which is also causing us to disconnect from each other, because now you've created more judgment and shame and making people feel guilty for whatever their choices are. And it's causing a rift between people and in our society. And honestly, like even on the political scale, doesn't matter what side you fall on. This is happening across the board. It's like our society right now is very divided, so divided, because nobody is taking the time to feel seen, to see other people, to hear other people. Everyone is closed-minded. Not everyone. Most people, a lot of people are closed-minded. They think their way is the only way. And this is both sides, guys. Like, it doesn't matter what side you're on. We're not taking the opportunities to hear the other side, whether you agree or disagree. You can agree to disagree, but it's very narrow-minded and closed-minded. And so it's causing, that's the opposite definition of connection. So it's causing us to disconnect from maybe people that are really close to us, from our society. It's made us kind of just go inward and really isolate. And so if we can do a better job at just kind of taking, you can have your beliefs and your values, but taking this like neutral stance or this open stance of, okay, I'm willing to hear your perspective. That doesn't mean that you agree or align with what they're saying, but being able to connect and hear what they're saying will allow for relationships in society to come together better.
I always kind of, go into things with this perspective. And I think maybe this is an innate ability that I have. That's kind of like part of what I feel like I'm here to do. But I always ask myself, can I just hold space? Like I value and genuinely love seeing different perspectives. I love I will sit and watch something and look from 10 different directions and see that many perspectives. And can I enter a situation, even if it's threatening, where I can hold space for the other person? And I find that the most challenging place to actually do this, it's easier for me to do it in the world. And it's easier for me, and when I say the world, I mean for all of you guys out there, and the people that I coach, and, when it's on my terms. But the times when it is the most challenging is in my closest relationships, right? The things that are most triggering. And I think people, this is what you're saying, like they're triggered and they want to shut. Can you be triggered and can you do the opposite response? Can you open and create more space for the other person and just observe, just listen to their perspective? It is really challenging, but that is a tool that I believe if people can develop that as a skill set, the world will be a massively better place for it. It is challenging. It is not easy. Like it is easy for me to do it when it's on my terms, when it's my clients, when it's people on social media, when it's my audience or my following, or, even people that mostly keep me at bay, at peace. But when I'm being triggered in my closest relationships, it's hard as hell. But I ask myself in those moments, if I am here to be this person that holds space, I better sure as hell learn to do it here. So I think if we can develop that as a skill and say, okay, I'm triggered. Okay, I'm angry, frustrated, whatever. You don't even have to name it, whatever. But can I not judge this? Can I be open and hold space for this new perspective and just watch, just observe? Well, that will change the world. I do believe that.
That's what makes relationships work in our society work, is that everyone brings something different to the table, whether it aligns, again, with your value system or not. That's all the different ideas and perspectives. We need that. It can't be one way or the other. We need the variety of perspectives and opinions and values and beliefs to make our world go round.
Literally, that is in the spiritual world, that actually is how it is supposed to be. So another thing, karmically, you can read for what is someone's essentially their purpose. Okay. And everyone has unique mixes. There are categories for that purpose, meaning there's a set number of purposes out there, and you are one of 8. There's 8, or a mix between 2, meaning Everybody's here to provide a different skill set to the world. And when I say skill set, I'm not saying like you're a firefighter and that's your skill. I'm saying it's a perspective that you're here to uphold within this planet. Literally, exactly what you're saying is true.
Yeah.
So can we hold space for all those things? Because some people are here to connect in one way, and some people are here to connect in a different way. One person's here to provide new and unique ideas to the world. The next person's here to have an innate understanding of universal wisdom and knowledge. And they bring different perspectives to each other. That actually is what you're here to bring to humanity, is different perspective. So can we just agree on that and hold space for each other in whatever that looks like?
So what I want to leave you guys with today is this question. Are you providing in your environments, in your relationships, the opportunity to see other people, to hear what they're saying, and to be, what was the last one? Seen, heard,
Bernay, where are you?
Yeah. Seen, heard, and
understood.
Yeah. Valued. Are you?
We don't even know.
Oh my God. But I told you my brain or my words were not working today. So are you seeing other people? Are you hearing what they're saying? Are you valuing them as a human being?
And I'm going to add to this, or are you just expecting people to do this for you? You need to provide this in order to receive this.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Good point.
Because everybody you are in a relationship with is a mirror for yourself. They will show up the way you're showing up, or they are there to show you something that you need reflected back to you. If you're expecting this from other people and not doing it for them, there's your work. And if you're not doing it for yourself, there's your work. Them and you need to provide both for yourself and the other person to receive it back. So consider that. And that's preach. You know, like everybody loves when I get on that, like my clients and stuff. Because I will get on and I'll be like, oh, I'm preaching now.
Well, when I look at all my relationships throughout my life, that has been true.
Yeah. Because it's
all the time.
What was it a few months ago? There was something that I was experiencing, and I kept asking myself, but are you doing this for yourself? Right? Like I was expecting, I think it was probably a close relationship, maybe, I don't know. But it could have, I don't remember what it was, but it was some sort of specific emotional thing. And I realized, and it's not like I didn't know this, but it was like when I put it to use and I was like, oh my God, I'm expecting this person to show up in a way for me that I'm not showing up for myself. I think it was something with, I don't remember. It doesn't really matter. But the point is
you that remember that experience.
I remember that experience. And I'm asking everybody out there to ask yourself, like, am I expecting others to show up for me in a way that I'm not showing up for myself? Because you need to connect with yourself in order to attract as well, right? You want to attract those places where you are your higher self. So give yourself what it is that you need to be your higher self too. Because you can attract those situations, those people, those places, those things like clockwork as long as you do that. And the universe will put those things on your path. It always does in perfect timing, I find. You know, I think you could probably agree to that. So.
Absolutely. All right, guys, that's all the time we have for today. If you like the episode, screenshot it, share it to your Instagram, Facebook, social media, friends, family, everywhere possible.
Aliens, I mean, whatever.
Aliens, yeah, that'd be cool.
Galactic people.
Cool. And we'll see you guys next week.
Just share it.
For more information on this episode, check out the show notes. Don't forget to follow us at Jenn_Morgan and Caitlin.englert.coaching for updates. If you love this episode, take a screenshot and share to your Instagram stories. And don't forget to tag us. Until next time, have fun and don't forget to pleasure yourself.